The original pasta al burro, meaning pasta with butter, is an Italian invention. If I've done my research correctly, it seems like people these days like things that are quote dummy thick with two C's. So we're going to do the more Americanized version of Fettuccine Alfredo. The added richness of the heavy cream will also ensure that whenever you get a bypass, it'll at least be in the triple to quadruple range. We're going to start out with a package of fettuccine. Now, one of these days we'll go over a recipe for fresh pasta, but I ain't got all day, and Zelda Breath of the Wild is not going to play itself. Let's set up a shock bath, which is just cold water with ice packs or ice cubes. It's also a great death metal band name. When it comes to pasta water, I've always preferred doing it in a deeper pan as opposed to a pot. It usually requires a lot less water and comes up to a boil much faster. We also want to make this water salty, like really salty. We want to make it as salty as the Atlantic Ocean, but not as salty as the Pacific Ocean. Also, you don't have to do your pasta in this full-blown high temperature all the way cranked up to 11 water boiling. You can turn it down to medium because starches absorb water at 180 degrees Fahrenheit. This means that your pasta will still cook, but it'll give you a much bigger window of error when it comes to how al dente or soft that you want your pasta to come out. When you've gotten the pasta exactly how you like it, transfer it to your shock bath. The cold water will stop the cooking process, allowing you time to go play some more Zelda Breath of the Wild. Eventually you're going to want to strain your pasta and toss it in some oil. We also want to reserve some of our pasta water, burning our left thumb as we put it into a container that's too small for it. Keeping a few cups of this will help us down the road when we want to thin out our Alfredo sauce and cook our noodles. When it comes to cheeses, I like to use Parmesan and Asiago. Both cheeses originate in Italy in two regions that actually border each other. But Asiago is aged less with a mild buttery flavor, while Parmesan is aged more with a sharper nutty flavor. Now I bet you didn't know that on your box grater, past the part that is your nutmeg grater that you put in your eggnog when drinking alone on Christmas, there's another side that makes a much finer cheese grate. I bet you're thinking, it can't take that much time to grate a full cup of cheese, but boy howdy do I have some news for you. Now I do have a pro tip for you, and it's called drinking beer while you do this activity. It'll trick your brain into thinking that dumb activities like grating a full cup of cheese or watching another one of my cooking videos is actually worth it. The reason we're grating this from a fresh block is because the stuff that comes in a package that's pre-shredded or grated comes covered in something called cellulose to keep it from sticking to each other. I have no problem with it on things like nachos or dishes like that, but in a sauce, it'll cause lumps. Now that I've gotten a full cup of grated cheese, it's time for me to go take one of my naps at noon, because I've been drinking beer and shredding cheese since 8 o'clock this morning. The heavy cream in this recipe will add a richness and also a stabilizer, meaning it'll help the sauce not separate and break. Let's make this real easy by using jarred garlic so we don't have to cut and sweat it. We're going to want half a cup of unsalted butter or one stick. Let's chop it into smaller sections so it melts easier. Salt and pepper to taste to our liking. We're going to start it all off by creating a roux, spelled R-O-U-X, but pronounced roux because French people be talking all fancy like. To create a roux, take a sauce pot over medium-low heat and add 1 tablespoon of butter. Use a spatula to help the butter melt, and once it's fully melted, add 1 tablespoon of all-purpose flour, or whichever flour you prefer. Using a spatula, we want to move these two around the bottom of the pan to avoid burning for a few minutes. We want it to get a light brown color, have a slightly nutty smell, and have the consistency of a creamy applesauce. Note to self, never say creamy applesauce ever again. Switching over to a whisk, add your heavy cream in small increments. Now is a good time to also turn your stove down to low. The idea is we're adding small amounts of the next ingredients so that they will heat up slowly and not come to a boil. If it comes to a boil, you have a higher chance of it breaking. Add in your minced garlic after all the cream has been put in, and call yourself Tom Cruise, because the rest of this video is going to be whiskey business. Continuing over low heat, we need to melt the full stick of unsalted butter. The reason we cut it into smaller sections that we call pats is so we can add it in smaller sections, allowing one to melt before adding the next. Once we've added all of the unsalted butter, add in both of your cheeses in small increments yet again. This might be boring and repetitive, so here's a shot of me straddling my tripod to get the right shot for this video. My apologies for the nightmare fuel I've just given you. When all the cheese has been melted and whisked in, add a few cranks of pepper or whatever you enjoy to taste. Now, as far as salting, what I like to do first is use that pasta water we reserved from before. This will help thin it out to the thickness or thinness that you enjoy, and it's got the salt already in the water to help you with that. Of course, you can always add more salt afterwards if it's gotten to the thickness you like without the seasoning. So with our Alfredo sauce sitting on the back burner, keeping warm, we want to add enough pasta water to a pan to cover the bottom. Add in the amount of pasta that you would like to serve. I like doing it this way because it's a nice low and slow process that allows the noodles to just soak up the excess water, not needing you to rush around and get hot noodles into hot sauce. This way you can heat everything up in a nice low and slow process. Add in your Alfredo sauce, keeping the saute pan at a low to low medium heat, bringing this sauce and noodles up to temperature. To make your friends and family feel inferior for their food plating practices, lightly take a pair of tongs and twist the pasta, mounding it up. Add a small amount of Alfredo to the bottom of your bowl. Take up 3/4 of your shot while putting your saute pan in front of the camera, and add your pasta. Sprinkle some more of that stupid grated cheese on top, add some parsley for color and some flavor, and finish it up with a couple of pieces of nice toasty bread. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Wake Up Smell the. You came, you sauteed, you conquered. Here are some other videos, and if you enjoyed this one at all, please don't forget to subscribe.